So let me just say a few words. First of all, CDPR is a Consortium for Development Policy Research. It's a consortium of 3 or 4 research centers, Lahore-based research centers, IDEAS, SERP, which is the Center for Economic Research in Pakistan. Many LUMS faculty members are engaged with us. Lahore School faculty members are engaged with us. CDPR is supported by the International Growth Center at Oxford and LAC. So that's essentially the structure. CDPR does many activities, but conducting policy debates is a major element of what we do. And that we do under the banner of the Lahore Policy Exchange. तो पहले हम physically करते थे premises पे, but now the webinar has actually created a wonderful opportunity to connect with lots of people, and distance doesn't seem to matter so much now. So this is, we welcome this opportunity and this development. I need not emphasize too much the importance of retail. Retail remains a leading indicator of business activity. In Pakistan, it generates a lot of employment. And in Pakistan, of course, we have very sophisticated high-end retail, but we have relatively traditional and very large-scale retail, which enables transactions for low-income households across the country. And both, whether you're large or you're small, you've been affected by recent developments in the slowdown, the partial lock-ins, the full lock-ins associated with the pandemic. And we thought that it would be a good opportunity to discuss how the sector has been affected overall. What were ongoing changes in the sector anyway, in terms of online purchases, online orders, domestically or internationally, and how did then COVID intervene, and whether it has helped accelerate those trends, and in what way, and what are the limitations that need to be addressed as we move towards that. We have a fantastic panel. I'm really grateful to Mr. Razak Dawood for taking the time out. I know how busy he is. But the fact that he wants to engage in a public forum just goes to show the commitment of his personal commitment, but also commitment of the government in being inclusive in decision making. We have some of the leading captains of the retail sector on the panel. Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed, manufacturers as well as a leading retailer. Mr. Hamid Zaman, similarly, and both are exporters. Mr. Shahryar Baksh, Mr. Sharmeen, remind me, we have the full panel.
Yes, Hamid Zaman Saab, Mr. Bashir Ali, Shahryar Baksh Saab, Munir Mayer Saab, Mr.
Munir Mayer Saab. Munir Mayer Saab, we just spoke. He's with us. And we have Jahanara. Jahanara is our IT guru. She has been advising the government. She's been advising business on how to become IT enabled in order to be in order to participate in business activity in the modern world. And she has very kindly agreed to be the moderator today, so that the panel can be asked intelligent questions. So wonderful. My job's done. Over to Jahanara. Just one other thing. What we intend to do is we will prepare notes, Razak Dawood Saab, which we will share with everybody, but in particular with you for your consideration as an input into policy making going forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nabi. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's a great privilege for me to moderate this discussion with such impressive panel of leaders from the retail sector. So I just want to begin with a brief introduction of the topic. So to say that these are interesting times for the retail sector would be an understatement. COVID-19 has created a dichotomy, the likes of which none of us have ever seen before. A percentage of retailers have closed up shop, both in Pakistan as well as globally. Some of this is temporary in response to regulatory mandates or due to dwindling customer foot traffic because people really are afraid to go into stores. Another percentage of retailers who are termed essential have seen a great increase in traffic, and it's been a challenge for them to follow the SOPs and make sure that people don't take risks that they shouldn't. It's impressive how some of them have responded, from controlling how many customers enter the store to maintaining an appropriate social distance, providing gloves, disinfecting hands, baskets, trolleys, making sure that a distance is maintained during checkout, etc., etc. And then the necessity for many of them to very quickly transform into online businesses or to expand existing online presence. That has been seen to be truly amazing in some cases. The coronavirus pandemic is impacting every step of retailers' fulfillment operations, from the beginning of the supply chain to delivery at a shopper's doorstep. The rules of retail are also changing as we speak, and we must rise to the challenge to emerge with innovative solutions to reinvigorate the retail sector, to reimagine the customer experience. So for instance, like restaurants offering DIY meals, clothing stores, reducing the number of retail spaces and revamping their online delivery models, brands giving hefty discounts to ensure continued spending by consumers. Consumer buying patterns and behaviors might remain changed over many months and even years. So this is bringing about some brand new approaches in other parts of the world. So live streaming has allowed brands to shift sales online and even launch new products through virtual showrooms. Virtual reality and streaming technologies have allowed some brands to put on a cloud fashion show, for instance. Some stores are allowing customers to practice to social distancing and skip long checkout lines using a smartphone app. We're beginning to see a rise in not just checkout-free shopping, but touch-free shopping, eliminating the need for physical interaction completely. How are retailers in Pakistan responding to these new trends? Many of them have actually gone online, at least to a limited degree. Are any new technologies being adopted? Are they only for the short term, or is this adoption going to be for the long term? What is the government doing? Is there anything that they can do in terms of policies to ease this transformation? So that's why the panel is really an important one today, and we are really privileged that Mr. Razak Dawood has joined us. Let me just do a very brief introduction, although I think most of them are they're so well known that an introduction is not really necessary. But just to go through the paces, Mr. Razak Dawood is a Pakistani politician, industrialist. He's the current advisor to the Prime Minister for Commerce, Textile, Industry and Production and Investment of Pakistan. He's the founder of Descon Engineering Limited and remained its CEO from 1977 to 2018. He was one of the founders and the first chairperson of the Pakistan Business Council. He's also currently the Pro-Chancellor of LUMS. Then we have Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed, who's the chairman and CEO of the Gul Ahmed Group, which includes different groupings such as Gul Ahmed Textile Mills, Gul Ahmed Energy, and Habib Metropolitan Bank. Ideas by Gul Ahmed is a chief retail venture company of the company. He was also formerly a member of the All Pakistan Textile Mills Association and was a chief member of the Export Promotion Bureau of Pakistan. We have Mr. Munib Meyer, who is founder of Bikeia, an app-based Pakistani ride-hailing and parcel delivery company, which is based in Karachi, Pakistan, which today serves over 1 million Pakistanis, where he continues to build products and find tech solutions for urban Pakistanis. He was also the co-founder of Daraz, Pakistan's leading e-commerce portal that sells fashion online and much else. It's not just fashion. Previously, he worked in investment banking at Bear Stearns in New York City, before returning to Pakistan to set up a back office for US-based SNL Financial, a financial content collection company. We also have Mr. Shehryar Baksh, who is the Managing Director of HKB Private Limited. He has extensive experience serving on the Board of Directors at Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry and National and Provincial Board of Investment. He ventured into the garments industry in 2010, launching the brainchild Beach Tree, a high street pret brand. And last but not least, we have Mr. Hamid Zaman, who's the co-founder and managing director of CFAM Private Limited, one of Pakistan's largest fashion retailers. CFAM was launched with the Barize brand of embroidered designer fabrics, but has now grown to a family of around 12 brands. Notable brands include Leisure Club, Mini Miners, Chinair, Keseria, Rangja, so many. Once each panelist has had their turn, I would request, starting with Mr. Razak Daud, to give us a 5-minute opening statement, and then if we can follow with the rest of the panelists, then we will go to the questions. Mr. Razak Daud.
Okay, thank you very much. We've just started our discussions on the importance of the retail sector, and we have some very prominent people here. The way I see it is because our exports are going to take time to get back to the level, it is very, very important for us here in the ministry to focus more on domestic commerce. And within domestic commerce, the retail sector is taking a very prominent role. During the budget making process, we had lots of discussions with people from service industries, Bata, then Ahmed Zaman, and from Gul Ahmed people, primarily to look at the tax structure, because if we want our retail sector to grow, we have to be able to get the right tax structure in place. And we won a little bit of it, not as much as we wanted, but I hope that whatever little we've done will prove to the government that we're on the right path and we can do more of it. The other area is we formed this e-commerce national council, and we meet with lots of people. And just 3-4 days ago, we had our meeting, and then the government will tell me, the government officials will tell me, oh, you were doing very well, this and that, but I don't listen to them. I spend my time reaching out to the business community. Are we doing a good job in the e-commerce council? Because one of the areas where we want to really develop our e-commerce is obviously in the retailing. So I want that area to be looked at. I would rather not talk more. I want to listen and learn from before we move into the other areas. There are many areas of where we want to change, and this is a golden opportunity we have. So I'd like to spend more time listening to the panel rather than talking, and then I could give my views on whatever they say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Razak Daud. Could we move on now to Mr. Bashir Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed, please? Could we have your opening statement?
Thank you, Janara. First of all, let me thank, I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Janara, for being the moderator. And first of all, let me thank Ijaz Nabi for taking this initiative. I think this is the need of the hour, or it's something which is very, very important to the country and to the Commerce Advisor as well, because he's been working very hard for this. So I think it's a very timely initiative. And also, I think we are very grateful that we have this eminent group of panelists today who will give us their views on this thing. First of all, I would like to just say that it's been a difficult time, and the way in Sindh we had a much more difficult time because we were suddenly locked out, and our peak season, which is the lawn season, we were closed down. So our whole supply chain, which we had built up for this, which is a huge amount of money which is blocked for the last few months, because to build up a whole new range of design and this lawn season. This year it was going to be a little early because Ramzan comes a little early. So all the money was there, the launch was there, and suddenly it was blocked. So everybody's capital was tied up, and for 45 days, we could not do anything, and we lost the season totally. So the retail season was totally lost, and it was really, Razak Saab tried very hard to open it, and they worked very hard with the chief minister. We managed to get it open, both for exports and for domestic. We lost over $1 billion of exports for this sudden closure. If we would have closed it in a phased manner, we would have got extra $1 billion in those next 8 days, which were there. So I think we need to work together with the government a little bit more to be able to cooperate a little bit, and communication is very important. But to go back to this, what I feel is that we have changed ourselves. We have gone into online, what you'd like to hear about it. The online is that in the last 2 months, even online was not allowed in the beginning by the Sindh government. It took us a long time to give us the permission to start that. So then when we got into it, of course, we were not ready for such a big online operation. It took us time to gear up. And now that we have doubled ourselves on online in the last 1 month, we find ourselves that we've got to upgrade all the technology to go to the next phase to again double ourselves. So the potential is there, definitely. And which we are doing now. We are getting the software. We've got all the consultants to support us on this. We have to pay for it. All these softwares have become very, very expensive, and we find ourselves to be in a very cash, flow position is tight. So we have to pay for all this, and it's a very difficult time. But we are still going ahead with all the initiatives, and we want to do it. But the companies who are digitalized more, I think they are the ones who are benefiting from it. We were one of the few ones. We had computerized ourselves totally. We are on the first one on Microsoft Dynamics on the cloud. So we are much more ready with the analytics, with all the information systems which we have. And even we know how much the footfall is in the shops, how many people are buying how much, how many customers are coming in, how many customers are buying, how many customers are not buying. We have all this information now. And now we have to get to the next level, how to do it. But the main thing which is bothering us is that now with the online sales being our competitor, and their costs is very low because the retail space is expensive, the utility costs are high, and they can make this into a commodity. And so we don't want the brands to become a commodity because they want to drive the prices down as much as possible. And in this, what is very important is how do we safeguard ourselves that, they are, corporate governance is there, the compliances are there when they are buying from people, and the effluent treatment plants are there behind all that, which we are all doing. But where they are buying, we really don't know how they are buying, whether the people are paying overtime, they are buying from the smaller factories which are not keeping the quality controls. So we can get a bad name for the quality, how many washes are there in the fabrics, everything. So I think these are the things which we feel are going to, affect us. So we have to upgrade the IT systems, we have to upgrade the supply chain, and we have to look at it that, it's going to be a difficult transition because the winners in this are the, health and the other, sectors, food sectors who have really done well. The fabric sector comes, of course, after us. Plus, we've got 4 days only of working. So in the retail sector, we are working, and then it's no point starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Who is going to come for shopping at 8 in the morning? So they've told us from 8 to 6 in Sindh and 8 to 7 in Punjab. Now, I think that's something where the government should be able to give us a little bit to start at 11 and to work a little bit later, because office timings are there. The housewives don't have a car. They go with their husbands. How can they go alone? So it is affecting our retail sale very much. Then the weekends are closed, which are the ones where people are more relaxed and they want to. So they've given us a 5-day week, which is a Friday, which is also half closed. And in Punjab, Friday is half-day closure anyway, totally, and in the textile sector. So these are the problems which we have. Our online sales, as I said, have doubled, and now we feel that we can still double it again in the next 1 year. But as I said, there's a lot of work to be done in the next 45 days, which we think we'll have to do it, and we will manage it. And I think it's a good thing. What has happened is, in a way, that it has pushed us into this. We were planning this, but now we have no choice. We have to move into online in a bigger way. And this is happening. The other thing is how to build that consumer confidence, to have that the corporate governance is there, the product is better, the brand loyalty is there, and how to build the brand. And the domestic commerce is so important, and the retail, because once we build the scale here and the know-how, we can go abroad. So I think this is where Razak Dawood Saab has to play a very important role to give us that scale here in the domestic market somehow, because that will give us the innovation, the creativity, which all can be tried, tested. I had requested him to allow all the raw materials duty-free, which he has done a lot of work on. But I think still a lot of new fibers have to come in duty-free, because this innovation and creativity is the ones which are going to really help us to move to the next level. So I think I've spoken enough. Of course, in the question and answers, I will be readily available. But I think this is, in a way, a golden opportunity for us to restructure and re-engineer our companies. And we have taken it very positively. The government has taken a lot of positive steps to support everybody on the salary schemes, on the deferment of loans. So the government has been very proactive, as much under the conditions in which they have no money at all. I think they have done a great job. But I think now it's our duty also to work all out and try to do, maximum to give back as well to the consumer and to the government, because they need the growth at any cost. Because domestic growth has, as Razak Saab said, exports are going to be difficult, and they're going to get more difficult after September. So I think it's very important to, give this domestic growth as quickly as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bashir Saab. So the key points, communication between the retail sector and government is extremely important. You are greatly concerned about the 4-day week and the hours. Quite right that 8 to 6, nobody goes out to buy stuff at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's quite unrealistic. And closing over the weekend, that should be addressed. I'm glad to hear that your sales have doubled and that you intend to double them further. The technology upgradation extremely important if you are going to increase the number of online consumers. So I'm glad that Gul Ahmed Group is looking at that. Next, I think if we move on to Muneeb Meyer, and Muneeb, your opening statement, please.
Yes, thank you, Jahara, for first of all giving me the opportunity and calling me on this panel. Just a quick background on myself, and I think the reason that I'm invited here is not just because I run a transport business today, but prior to this, for about 4 years, I ran Daraz.pk, which initially started off as a fashion business. And after a couple of years of operations, converted into a general merchandise business, which essentially means it starts to sell everything. I did leave, after 4 years, but a tad before the Alibaba acquisition. And what I do today is I run a network of motorbikes called Bikea. The primary business for Bikea is moving people, pillion riding from point A to point B, with a tertiary business being in deliveries, but mostly hyper-local deliveries, which means within the city. So we do not focus on deliveries between cities. We focus on deliveries only within the city. This has been devastating for us, frankly speaking. Since the lockdown, our core business has historically always been moving people, and mostly in Karachi and Pindi, Islamabad, and we've got a very small presence in Lahore. So most of the business is primarily in Karachi. Unfortunately, pillion riding was suspended and continues to be suspended. Despite buses and rickshaws and cars being open, we've been lobbying with the government, really advocating that it's actually safer with two people on a motorbike wearing helmets, because they're like health visors, as opposed to sharing recirculated air in a car or touching the poles within a bus. But I think that's for a later discussion. Given that we lost most of our business, we also have made investors who were about to plug a very large amount of money into Baikia. Baikia would hopefully, inshallah, as soon as this pillion riding ban is over, we should hopefully, inshallah, announce one of the largest Series B rounds in Pakistan. But again, all of that is pending this ban or the suspension on pillion riding. But what we've been doing really for the last 3 months is focusing on, how to grow the delivery business. Now, it's kind of ironical that I actually do come from a background where I did deal with e-commerce, and I did, try to build e-commerce really from the ground up when it was very nascent. And frankly speaking, for the last 3 years, I have not really been focusing on it, right? But the last 3 months, Jahan, I've been really, me and my entire team, we've been working very, very hard to try and build logistic technology, right, which doesn't really exist. And the reason it's important is that Pakistan is not like America, or is not like China or India, where cities are very, very, very far apart, and where people will buy things from one state to another. I'm sure there's a lot of trade happening, between Punjab and Sindh, but there's a lot more, particularly commerce activity happening within the city, because our cities are so big, right? Our cities combined, like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad combined, is about 30, 35 million people, right? So if you split these cities up, these cities themselves are like Karachi is almost the size of like Australia in terms of population, right? So we've been really working on the back end core engineering for deliveries. Inshallah, we will be, launching some of that, but I think we also, the onus is on us and incubators like yourself, Jahan, where I think we need to come up with the new age of products that will serve the industry, the retail industry going forward. Because we can't copy paste from America, we can't copy paste from China, because those are huge countries, right? And their consumer behaviors are quite different, right, from the consumer behavior in Pakistan. So, for example, we can't change the fact that people pay in cash in Pakistan, right? That's not the case in America. That's not the case in China. And the reason people pay in cash is that, unfortunately, we haven't been able to make certain decisions at the state level around taxation for mobile top-ups, right? Like Kenya did, right? Or even for that matter, like Bangladesh has, and so we haven't made those decisions. And so structurally, people tend to pay after they receive an item as opposed to paying before they receive an item. And that's the fundamental difference. People keep saying, what's the problem with cash and delivery? The primary problem is that the customer is not 100% convinced they're actually going to pay. So, if you look at manufacturers or retailers, they will complain that logistics is broken. When in reality, the customers who are buying from these platforms or from these brands are not necessarily, they don't have skin in the game. They may or may not pay for the item. And so logistics companies have to make iterative attempts to try and hope and pray that this person is going to end up paying cash, and then you've got to manage cash, right? So I think the structural problems, but we've got to deal with them. We've got to figure out how to deal with them. We've got to figure out how to solve for them. And we are working to solve them, and inshallah will, particularly as we get capital deployed, we will work towards perhaps the future of retail, because the future of retail will be omni-channel, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is कि देखें, flu तो Spanish flu भी हुआ था, 1916 में, right? So the Spanish flu, in fact, most people don't know this, like I think over 20 million people died in the Spanish flu. Half of them died in the Indian subcontinent, right? But like, how many of us even think of a flu and think of a pandemic? We didn't even, like, after so many years, we'd forgotten about it. So people have very, very short-term memories. So I don't believe that, the physical retail will ever end. It's not going to ever end, right? Particularly in these emerging geographies. But there is going to be a gravitation towards digital. And the reason I say that particularly is that अगर आप China में देखें, जब SARS आया था 2003 में, तो उस टाइम पे Alibaba एक primarily B2B business थी. लेकिन उन्होंने जो अपना B2C retail model जो शुरू किया था, वो SARS के बाद शुरू किया था. And if you ask, any of the leaders at Alibaba, they will say कि जी, अगर SARS का pandemic ना होता in China, people would not have gravitated towards buying things online. So I think short term, this is painful. Near term to long term, this is fantastic because it will change behaviors. And I'll leave it at that. I think I've taken up too much time, and I'll speak more about it in a sec.
Quite right. So I didn't realize that pillion riding was still banned, because as you said, it doesn't make sense. And with people wearing helmets, they're safer on a bike than they are in a car, or especially on the buses that we have. So maybe Mr. Razak Daud can help us with that, because that means your core business right now is at a total standstill. But I'm glad you're working on the tech, because the tech is what is required by a large number of businesses here. And you're right, it would not work. The copy pasting from China or the US for a totally different market is something that we shouldn't even be thinking about. We need something that works here in Pakistan. Yes, we adopt technologies that are workable here, but the taxation for the mobile top-ups, maybe Mr. Razak Daud can also assist us with that, because cash on delivery is something that a lot of Pakistanis opt for, and you're right, a lot of them turn away the products once it is delivered to their homes. So this is something for online stores is a genuine problem. So thank you, Muneeb, for pointing all those out, and let's hope your tech is ready soon. We move on to Mr. Hamid Zaman. Would you like to make your opening statement now, please?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you very much to CDPR and Mr. Ijaz Nabi. And I want to thank Mr. Razak Daud, because as Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed said, he has been extremely proactive, and the number of meetings we've had with the government this time is way higher, and there was a genuine interest to improve conditions for doing business. So I want to take the opportunity to thank him again. Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed pointed out all the issues that the textile retailing and lifestyle retailing is facing at this time. So I won't go over that for sake of repetition, but I would like to give a little bit of a background on retail in Pakistan. Organized retail in Pakistan is really around 20 years old. Barize was launched maybe 35 years ago, but really the larger brand proliferation took place after 2000. Pakistan in 2017, as you stated, the Euromonitor thought that we were the largest growing retail sector in this part of the region. And they were right. And that's precisely one of the reasons why e-commerce did not grow like it should. We were growing so well because of the new brands that were coming in, because of the shopping malls that were coming up. our retail was growing so fast that we really did not feel the need to go into e-commerce domestically. It's only in the last 5 to 7 years that we started getting into more and more into e-commerce. This was necessitated by the fact that now the brands proliferated. There were hundreds of new brands coming in. There was a tough war going on. Market share was being lost. And because the market was being saturated, we were going in the middle of a price war, we were trying to get market share. And that's when a lot of the brands realized that to increase market share, we needed to collect data about our customers and about their buying habits and patterns and their preferences, and go online and try and get customers from there. We started doing that about 5-7 years ago. And that's really, and we are way behind technologically, and also otherwise in e-commerce, we are way behind the rest of the world. We at CFAM started this process a little over 5 years ago, and our e-commerce sales were growing steadily, not as fast as our retail was growing, but still steadily growing. And then this COVID-19 came and hit us, and it really pushed us towards the direction of e-commerce. And e-commerce has gone up geometrically in the last 3 months. But I would like to state a word of caution here, that even though it's gone up many times, but in our brands, our e-commerce was 3% of our sales. This year, we finished at 8%. During the last quarter of this fiscal year, in the time of lockdown, smart lockdown, and only e-commerce going, some of our brands got up to as high as 24%. As soon as lockdown was lifted, they came back down to 14%. So I think that in Pakistan, e-commerce is going to take a little while to catch on and go to that proportions of percentage of sale which are enjoyed in the rest of the world. And there are many reasons for that. There's a lack of consumer laws implementation. People lack confidence in brands. They don't know how to trust a brand or something which is non-branded, because what they get is maybe a little different from what was shown on the screen. We don't have comprehensive warranty policies. A lot of consumers are not tech savvy. Many retailers are not tech savvy. And there is a lot of price sensitivity. People going online are usually looking for lower prices. Brands, unfortunately, cannot afford to match the non-branded items. This is where actually we were also affected, where retail was growing up till 2017. It was stopped because there were, unfortunately, there were government policies which gave an unequal playing field and taxed the documented and organized sector of retail and industry at a much higher level than the undocumented sector, which is more than 80% of retail in Pakistan, unfortunately, and made it too expensive for us. So there is a lot of scope in developing e-commerce. There is a huge ground to cover, and I think the government and business coming together can really take this e-commerce up. And right now in Pakistan, e-commerce cannot replace brick and mortar, but slowly and steadily, I think we can make it into a very significant part of our retail. The government needs to make some key policy changes to lowering taxes on e-commerce, improving payment mechanisms, publishing verified data, which will allow new entrants to place their consumers and to place their products in the market, improve IP protection so that people will invest and come up with new softwares, and especially, and this is for Mr. Razak Daud, in order to increase international sales by e-commerce. We need to have very good laws which make it very easy for me to send parcels to Europe or America or Australia or wherever they may be. Right now, if I want to make an e-commerce delivery to another part of the world, it's almost like exporting a container of fabric. And then when the payment needs to come in, specifically because of the FATF rules and whatever, it becomes almost impossible. So we have made, fortunately, we have a company in Dubai where we receive our payments and then transmit them to Pakistan. But what we need, if we want e-commerce internationally and we want our exports through e-commerce to go, Razak Sahab, we absolutely need a very good payment gateway, very simple transference of money from abroad to here. And we need government policies which will really help to improve investment in the sector and help us to export very easily without going through complicated procedures. There are many things I can say, but I think I've probably taken up more time than was allotted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamid Zaman. So problems mainly around the tax issue, the price war, and I'm not surprised that, you know, when the online commerce grew from 3% to 8%, and after the lockdown, it came down from the 23 or 25% that you said it went up to, it came down again, because it takes time for online commerce to become a habit. Lack of confidence and trust, totally agreed, and people are not as tech savvy, and they're looking for lower prices. A lot of to-do items for Mr. Razak Daud, and after Mr. Shahryar Baksh makes his opening statement, maybe we can have some comments from Mr. Razak Daud on some of the things that all of you have brought up. So, Mr. Shahryar Baksh, last but not least, your opening statement.
Thank
please.
you. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Saab, it's an honor and a pleasure to address this, to be called here and to address and talk to people. Pakistan currently spends about $1 billion on e-commerce every year. The predominant category in this is women's wear, and within women's wear, it is loose fabric or lawn. Pakistani consumer continues to be more sophisticated about their interaction and expectations from brands. They want high quality products that are available with a convenient digital experience. Excuse me, pre-COVID, we used to think that e-commerce is just a channel, and we used to benchmark it against one of our best stores, which was Dolmen. Now the game has changed. For the past 3 months, if you look at our numbers for April, May, June, our e-commerce has been about 60% of our business. Yeah, one of the reasons for that is that our footprint is small and we are a predominantly urban brand. So we don't have that spread where the recovery was faster in tier 2 cities, for example. Now going forward, we are targeting north of 30% sales to come from e-commerce. How are we doing it? What's the plan? One of the key things that we feel is knowing your customer is the name of the game. It is critical to study customer behavior and knowledge, not only to enable our selling module, but to provide customers with convenience and a unified shopping experience. Empowering e-functions with technology and automation. Planning to build intelligence into order routing so as to optimize liquidity or store inventory or omni-channel. That's what we are doing right now also, is that we have started using our stores as our warehouses. So we're dispatching most of our stock from our stores. This results in lower operating costs because our delivery from Karachi orders hit Karachi stores, for example. So we don't have to ship out from Lahore. Next thing is planning implementation of better visibility of orders for both customers and staff. Empowering contact center staff with technology for a single window operation and singular view of customers' entire history online and offline. We're trying to merge both of them. Reorganization of IT function to be better aligned with business, especially e-commerce. Problems that we see, our softwares are too expensive, and there are very few stable, experienced tech providers. There are only a handful of people who understand what's going on. The rest are just learning. Again, I have slightly more experience. My understanding of retail is slightly, one of the things that fashion retail is fairly well covered in Pakistan. What is the challenge is your mom and pop stores, the grocery stores, and your markets, which are highly fragmented and can't invest into technology. What Amazon has done in India has been a phenomenal model. They've gone in for the smart shop model. What I think what it has done is that they have put all the stores online. They have digitally put all the stores' inventory online and issued a QR code for the store that signs up with them. And the moment you walk by that store, you can see the QR code outside. So if you want to see what's inside the store, all you have to do is through your Amazon app, scan the QR code, and you get access to all the inventory, promotions, and customer reviews of that store. So you can actually buy stuff while standing outside or have it delivered to your house. And then again, you have multiple payment options. You can pay through Amazon Pay, you can pay through credit card or debit card. More than 10,000 stores in Delhi have already signed up for this program, ranging from the mom and pop stores to the big bazaars of this world. So another interesting model is what Mall of Dubai has done. They've gone in for a vertical where the whole mall has been covered into an app. So I think an interesting development can be, a similar analogy would be in Lahore. If you're living in Model Town, someone needs to develop the whole Liberty Market into one app. And whoever wants to buy from Model Town or close by, for example, if you want to buy a pair of bangles from Liberty Market, so you just go to your favorite vendor within Liberty Market and order that pair of bangles. So you get it delivered the next day or the same day. I think that's where we should be heading with this. I mean, just look at the amount of investment Reliance has attracted because of all of this. I think it's close to about $15 billion into their e-commerce platforms. So we are way, way behind, and the opportunity is huge. I think that's about it. I think I've spoken enough.
Thank you very much. Yes, definitely we are far behind, and we need to now accelerate the process of going online. Really excited to hear that in 3 months, 60% of your business was through online sales. That's amazing. And that you're trying to maintain that even after, bring it down to maybe 30% to begin with. That's amazing. But you're right that the unified shopping experience is something that's needed. And also the Amazon's model, Amazon Go model, where you can use barcodes and apps.
Yes.
Amazing. I don't know how it's going to happen that quickly, but the tech providers can certainly get in on the act. We have good technology developers across the country. I think if we can tell them this is the problem we need you to solve, then perhaps instead of everybody developing their own solutions, we can have solutions developed, like Munib was talking about, the solution that he's trying to develop for logistics. But I think it's time we went to Mr. Razak Daud, if you would like to comment on anything that you've heard before we go into the questions, because we're way behind schedule, I think.
Yeah. What was it? There seems to be a lot of talk on e-commerce, and e-commerce. When we put the summary before the cabinet, the cabinet approved it, and the cabinet gave that responsibility to the Ministry of Commerce to pursue it. Since then, we have moved a lot, and we've had 2 meetings of the e-commerce National Council, and just recently we had it. And as I said to you, I did not know how successful we have been in the implementation. So I asked a few people that I knew who were in this line of business. And they gave me the feedback that, yes, they were quite happy that the Ministry of Commerce is responding to a lot of the people. As far as the domestic payment is concerned, I was with the State Bank governor, and he tells me that on the the domestic payment, I believe there are not many problems. A lot of this stuff has been ironed out. Is that true? Do you people have problems in the payments? As far as international payment is concerned, I hear it, I don't hear it. I hear a lot of people say, no, we go through Dubai, and we have our own arrangement for the last bit. So I can honestly say that I'm not fully aware that, yes, I'd like to again hear that from you. As far as the international payments, are we better than we were a year ago? And if not, what would you want me to do? A lot of the government is only a facilitator. The doing has to be done by the hundreds and thousands of youngsters that are involved. I did ask the concerned officer in the Ministry of Commerce, Aisha Irani, is on the line now. Aisha, can you just talk for just 2 minutes to give them some comfort, or tell them where we have done well, and where, more important, where we have not done well. So just Aisha, in a very brief form.
Welcome, Aisha.
Right. Thank you, sir. In the second NECC, some of the decisions were made regarding digital payments also. A special working group has been created, and there was a lot of interest from the telecom sector and other fintech companies, and they have joined this working group, and they will be, working very closely with the government to see that what needs to be done and how can, because the issue is that if you have 100 rupees and if you transfer through cash, it remains 100. But if it goes online, it is reduced. So then there is no incentive to actually, reduce cash. So these are the issues which needs to be looked at. Although we have a lot of, as just the advisor said, we have a lot of service providers, but there is no incentive for the consumer to really use digital payment systems, even domestically. So to, really iron out those aspects, we will be working closely with them, and we will bring, hopefully in the next NECC, some of the recommendations. And on the international payment gateway, some of the payment gateways are working. For example, Habib Bank has, and other banks are also coming up. There is a consortium of banks. They are also working on it, and I think there will be more progress. To check out is one payment gateway, which many people are using. Pioneer has a gateway. So, but there are, charges on that. And we are working with the State Bank that how international payments can be further facilitated. On the cross-border e-commerce payments, as it was mentioned by one of the panelists, that to increase exports, we really have to make it very simple. So we have made a lot of progress in that with the help of Chain Store Association. We had dialogue with State Bank and FBR. It is at a very advanced stage, and FBR is developing a VBOC module to be integrated. So these are two areas where we are really trying to focus. And on the consumer protection side, we are in touch with the provincial governments and the consumer protection councils. And, a lot of awareness raising and a lot of work is being done. New councils have come up, and they are developing online dispute resolution mechanisms as well. And, we can share all that information with the panelists by sharing our implementation plan. You will get, because it has timelines, actors identified, and the action which has already happened. So I'll share that plan with you.
Okay, thank you. What was it? Obviously, for us, retailing, for us, e-commerce is very, very important. And there are many other elements of the retail sector which has to be put in place. One of the biggest concerns of the government is that a lot of the e-commerce, a lot of the retail sector is just not documented. And every time they want to tax, they only tax the documented. And I keep telling them that, why are you doing that? You've got to go and get the undocumented sector to get in. And obviously, I think e-commerce will hopefully help in achieving that. One other thing that I want to mention, which is on a more global level, I've been after the Ministry of Finance and the FBR that in order to improve our Make in Pakistan, we have to rely less and less on our taxes at the import stage. And one of the things that we have done in this budget was to reduce the duty down to zero on thousands of items. And there are still several thousand more that have to be done, which I will be sitting down with the business people now that July has come and the budget is behind us, to be able to do it. And the more we shrink the collection of duties at the import stage, the more important the collection of taxes through sales tax and income tax becomes, because then we will be like any other country. Just to give you some figures, Pakistan collects 47% of its taxes at the import stage. India is at 26%. Bangladesh is at 28%. The Western world is at less than 10%. So we can see which way we have to go. And we're not anywhere near, and we're a sore thumb that sticks out on any of the statistics that we see. But then coming back to e-commerce, I want to hear from you people. We can give you all the members of the who are on the National Council. Please communicate with them and give us your criticism as where you think that things are not right. Munib, I particularly look to you. If you have any comments, please.
I'll just add one comment. I won't take too much time. First of all, I'll be honest. Ma'am, Aisha Durrani has actually been pivotal in hearing the entire industry. So first of all, thank you, because there are very few people who listen and who are actually working very hard to make sure that the voice of the industry reaches people like yourself. On payments, on domestic payments, I will just very briefly tell you why it's an issue. In a good example I'll try and give you is Pakistan versus Kenya, right? Why is Kenya's GDP equivalent to its digital payments? Digital payments in Kenya actually exceed its GDP as well. And so why is there such a disparity between these two countries? And fundamentally what happened is that their state bank never regulated mobile top-ups and allowed them to be used as a parallel currency, right? And the way they did it is that basically when on mobile top-ups, for example, if they basically taxed it at 2% versus Pakistan's 30%. Like right now, if I add 100 rupees, I'll be taxed 30%. So I'll never use that 70 rupees to buy anything, right? I'll always use cash, right? But when in Kenya, what they did was they made it, let's say 2%. But every time that was traded as a parallel currency, and let's say 50 times it was traded, that 100 rupees was doubled. And so the state ended up making like bootloads of money in taxes, right? So if you're looking for a quick way to fundamentally change this country, right? You've got to hurt for 2 quarters in telecom taxes. Today, no one wants to make that decision because telecom is a bread earner for taxes for the country as well. right? But no one wants to make that decision. But if you allow it to be traded as parallel currency, and the state can take 1%, 2%, 3% out of that transaction, every transaction the state will automatically get visibility on, right? Today, you can't, you don't know of a transaction between me and Jahan. And that's because it's a cash transaction. You'll never get to see it. So that's the gist of domestic payments. On international payments, I don't think there's a problem in money coming in. I think the problem is money coming in for very, very, very small merchants. So there's no Stripe or PayPal equivalent in Pakistan for micro merchants to receive money. And I think the second is Hamid Zaman Saab basically briefly spoke about, I think, the hurdle in documentation, which Ms. Durrani has actually spoken about earlier as well. The hurdle in documentation for exporting even a very small, tiny item.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your observation. We'll certainly look into it. Definitely.
I think, if I may, Ijara, just for a moment, I think, Razak Saab, this is a more generalized problem with taxation. Unfortunately, FBR does not understand elasticities. That if you lower the price of something, the impact in terms of quantities can be much larger than what you lose out in lowering the price. This is something that FBR really doesn't understand, and doesn't matter which tax you take, this issue comes up over and over. I'm sure it's many of the difficulties you're having in reducing trade taxes also stems from that. Now, that may well be that their targets are set always as short-run targets because we can't get out of the IMF straitjacket, and therefore nobody wants to be in a position of not meeting those short-term targets. But elasticities do work. Kenya is doing well because Kenyans have understood the concept of elasticities. You can reduce the price and the quantity impact can be huge. So if you reduce the rate of tax, the actual revenue that you collect over 2 or 3 or 4 quarters will be substantially higher. This is something that needs to be repeated over and over again till people learn the lesson.
Ijaz, I cannot agree with you more. This time around in the budget making process, I was fairly deeply involved and had many meetings with the FBR. And to some of those meetings, I asked Hamid Zaman and Shahid Hussain and others to come, and various other people also from Karachi came in. It is a very major mindset that we have to change. This thing that you talked about, elasticity, they don't understand it. They don't understand it, and they always use the IMF and they hide behind the IMF. That IMF has given this target, what can we do, etc., etc. Whereas I fully agree with you that if we did drop the rates, we will do far better. And in those few areas where they have, very few areas, good results have been shown. And this is all on the assumption that the FBR, our intentions are clear, their competence is there, which we know there are many challenges there also. So Ijaz, I do agree with you. But to me, the good news is that we are chipping away at the powers of the FBR. And there has been 10%, 20% success in chipping at the whole block. And this year we're going to keep at it more and more. I know the changes that I brought in by pushing the FBR on, for example, is not a matter of interest to the panelists here, but the duty drawbacks. they were all completely warped. And now I can say that for at least 5 or 6 sectors, they are absolutely straightened out. And we hope that in the coming weeks and months, that will start and we will start improving it. I have shown the Ministry of Commerce did its own homework, got the information from India as to what they've gone and done and how they've done it, how they've changed the rules, and the rules were changed. So I'm very happy to say the rules were changed, and I myself checked it in the finance bill. It is done. So now the rules are changed. We've just got to start over this year implementing. And luckily, the member customs right now, the new guy who's just joined, is a very, very enlightened person. So all these things of trying to break that juggernaut of the FBR, there are a few more things that have to be done. I hope that I can nudge Hafiz Sheikh to do a few more things, and maybe we will have some more success this year.
Mr. Ahmed Zaman, are you trying to make a comment?
Yes.
I think I've seen you.
Since I've had dozens of, thank you very much, Janara. Since I've had dozens of meetings with Mr. Razak Daud and other ministers and also the FPR, the most hopeful thing that we heard when the current government came in was that the policy making body will be another and the revenue collection body will be FPR. And I would just like to stress that, because Mr. Razak Daud is here, please, whenever we go to Islamabad, and that's been dozens of times this year, when we talk to you or we talk to Asad Omar or we talk to Hamad Azhar or anybody from the ministries, we are so happy because you understand what we are saying and you have the vision to understand that it's not by increasing rates, it's by expanding the tax base. But when we talk to FBR, it becomes a 180 degrees turn. So from what you started, perhaps if somebody else made the policy and FBR only did the revenue collection, I think Daud Saab, we may go very far, and the revenues the government collects will increase many times. Thank you.
I would just like to endorse what Hamid has said, that yes, we have taken a decision, the cabinet has taken a decision that the FBR must become only a revenue collecting agency and not a policy making agency. And the policy making is in 2 areas. One is in the areas of tariff. The other is in the area of taxes. The tariff has moved. It's now parked in the Ministry of Commerce. And I can say with my hand on my heart that we have made a reasonable degree of progress. Now it is, they cannot initiate anything. It's the initiation has to come from the Ministry of Commerce. About 90% of the initiations came from the Ministry of Commerce, and 10% went directly from the FBR, which we vehemently objected to, and they've realized it. Where the problem is the tax has not moved out of the FBR into the Ministry of Finance. And this is what I was meaning, that we will be now concentrating on that, that by the time the next budget comes, that part has to be moved out of the FBR. And if that gets moved out, then we will have achieved a great deal of success. And Ijaz, the type of things you're talking about on mindset change, on elasticity, etc., all this will become so much easier. It gets out of the FBR. Today, the player and the referee is the same person. See? They make the policy, they play the game. So we do not know when you're talking to them, are they talking as a referee or are they talking as a player? We don't know.
Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed, you had a question?
Thank you. What I would like to say here is that I think this is a golden opportunity for Pakistan to restructure the whole economy, because under the COVID, everybody knows that these are once in a lifetime opportunity. And I think this government has this opportunity. They had it in the budget. They should have taken a little bit more brave decisions. And I think still there is time to take those, because it's very easy to, I mean, for the finance minister to say, take the FBR out, all the drawbacks would be given through the state bank straight away when your revenue comes in. I mean, it would be 0.5% difference or 1% difference in the, maybe there might be some people who might take advantage of it. But most of the people today, it's such a transparent economy in the whole world. And if you do anything wrong, you can trace it so fast and so quickly with the technology. So I think the government has to be brave and take these tough decisions. If they take it, I think it will change the whole landscape of Pakistan, like in PIA, in steel mills and everything. I think in the discos, on the wheeling, on the energy, you just have to take it. Okay, there will be problems. People will frighten you, but they are vested interests. They don't want you to do it. And I think this is where the government just has to, even like whatever was wrong in Mr. Bhutto's time, he went and nationalized everything. He didn't think about it. So I think this time also you got to do it. Why should you worry about it? Okay, well, the problems will be there, but we'll all solve them. And I think it'll just take a little, like they were saying, like in what is happening in Kenya. I think it's a fantastic thing. This is how Kenya has progressed. And I think we need to take these tough decisions. I mean, we just can't hold this whole country back like we are doing on the energy crisis. The price is nearly double. The whole country is paying for it. You just can't afford it. We just have to allow wheeling. We just have to deregulate. That's all. Okay, everybody will come to the table and they will renegotiate and we will find a way. But if we don't take these tough decisions, we'll just never get out of it. And I think Razak Saab has a very important role to play in convincing the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister listens to him. And I think it's very, very important that we take very tough decisions, even on IT. It's the only thing which can really save us. Because if you look at India, look at the amount of exports India does, and we look at us. I mean, it's not even, we are in single digit compared to India. I mean, we could easily double or go 10 times. I mean, and that would be nothing for the world. And what's the difference between Pakistan and India? Nothing, really. I think our people are just as good, just as smart, and we could do it. So I feel the government and the private sector has to trust each other. They have to communicate with each other much more. And we have to work together like people do in India, in other countries. The government is so, taking the initiative so quickly and so fast, and we take so long, and that's why we get left behind. Thank you.
But it wasn't always the case. I mean, our capacity, our ability to take decisions was much better than India's till about 2 decades ago. Things have changed in the last 20 years, and that's something that we can address. Razak Saab, just to strengthen your hand, in the short run, because of the IMF program, we will be held to the fiscal deficit target, not the revenue target, but the fiscal deficit target. And there are two ways to meeting that target. One is to make sure that our revenues don't go down, which in the short run they might if you adopt this policy of reducing rates. But the other target we should look at is expenditures. We must get reprieve on the fiscal deficit by looking at expenditures for 2 or 3 quarters, so that you have the room for elasticities to play themselves out on reducing the rates. If we just remain stuck on the revenue target, we'll never take this decision of lowering the rates. So let's keep the fiscal deficit as the target and lower expenditures for three quarters, and then allow the elasticities to operate. I think this is something that we really collectively in the cabinet, you and your colleagues have to focus on. I think this is where you'll get the reprieve despite the IMF program.
Mr. Shahryar Baksh, do you want to add anything to what has already been said by the other panelists before Mr. Razak Daud responds?
So I think the only way forward is very rightly said by everyone is privatization, and we need to get out of this. Otherwise, it's like a catch-22 situation. We keep trying to increase revenues by taxing the existing people in the base. I mean, I don't understand why we don't privatize. We've got 1.5 or 1.6 trillion rupees in losses from PSCs.
Right, we have some questions coming in, Mr. Razak Daud. Unless you have some comment to make, we'll proceed to the questions from people who've
Any
been
questions?
listening.
Let's move to the questions.
All right, so we have one from an anonymous attendee. So let's take that first. Payments via debit cards still face problems. Not everyone has credit cards, and Pakistani banks don't let you pay online using your debit card. And many banks add on a charge for online payments. So that acts as a disincentive for the consumer. And even while paying using credit and debit cards in brick and mortar shops, many small retailers add on a 2.5% fee, which is again a disincentive. How does the government intend to streamline these payments? And then there is a second question. Secondly, many consumers prefer cash on delivery because of a trust deficit, which we spoke about. Many retailers regularly delay shipments, send the wrong order, or damaged goods. Even Daraz is notorious for fraud. I don't know if that's true. We avoid Daraz like the plague. So anyone who wants to comment on this?
I think we should ask the last person here. You should answer this. Why is there a lack of confidence?
I think the lack of confidence is twofold. First and foremost, Pakistan में inventory depth बहुत कम है, right? और क्योंकि even in fashion में भी basically like एक चीज की अगर photograph आपने लेनी है उसके पीछे 1000 items नहीं है. Right, उसके पीछे like a limited inventory. But even if you go in towards electronics, there's very little depth, and because there's not a lot of access to credit, what ends up happening in the chain is that the inventory gets pushed down and distributed in the market. And so when an order is placed, particularly on a platform like Daraz or really any marketplace platform, the shopkeepers many a times may have sold that item to someone else in the market, but then they're basically scrambling to fetch that item from one of their friends in the market. And so that causes delays. And no brand or no seller wants to deliberately send broken or fraudulent things, right? I'm sure there is a tiny portion of sellers who are fraudulent, but most people are not fraudulent. It's just that there is a problem in supply chain, and that's mostly because of access to credit, right? And inventory depth. And the second thing is basically really around moving quite illogically, and that is because of lack of technology, things from one city to another city, when it's quite possible that the inventory could exist in the same city. And in that, frankly speaking, is something that needs to be solved in a systematic way by companies themselves. And just your question on debit cards. So there are, I think, about 26 million debit cards in the country, but about 8 million or 7 million of them are Benazir income support cards. So if you minus them, you're left with about 20 million or so. But of the 20 million, unique is still about 13, 14 million maximum, right? And so if you look at the population of the country, you've got over 220 million people, right? You're really talking about 5-7% banked population. It's one of the lowest in the world, right? And with these supply chain systemic problems and long logistics, clearly people are going to lose trust. And so it's not one party's fault. There are many factors that we need to work on, and frankly speaking, the onus is also on us to try and improve things. And by the way, I'm not involved in Daraz anymore. It's been 3 years since I now run a business called Bikeia, and I think hopefully in the future we will also try to build technology for businesses as well to help alleviate these pains.
Okay, so yes, Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah. I think we have solved this problem of delays because we've gone on the omni-channel system where our shops have become now, so if we have in Nazmabad somebody, we have somebody from Baikia to deliver as quickly as possible, or in Lahore. So a lot of our big flagship shops have become actually our, online shops as well. So I think these problems are being resolved as we've learned all this. As I said, we are moving very fast and we are changing ourselves very, very quickly, and we all have to. But I think this is the starting point, and I think in the next 3 to 6 months, Pakistan will be way ahead. I think this was a shock which we got, and I think, as I said very in the beginning, we needed this shock because otherwise we wouldn't have got out of that comfort zone which we were in. So I feel we should be brave enough, and that's what I've been telling Razak Saab also, and take these tough decisions and move ahead because this is a golden opportunity. Thank you.
So there's a question from Mr. Parvez Iftikhar. He says he also mentions the lack of trust, and that's why people insist on COD. But what he wants to say is that we have not seen so far any substantial incentives motivating buyers to switch over to electronic payments. For instance, why does no online retailer offer special discounts to those opting for online payments? Would like to take that.
Any of your retailers, yeah?
Yes, but Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed, yeah.
Yes.
No, we do that. What we do is that we give sometimes the online people an advantage for 2 or 3 days or maybe 4 days before we go on sale. And we give them the first right so that they can buy the cheaper products or the ones which are there. So, and there are new ways of working on it, like even for the banking, for the bank cards, we give them 2 days before when we go on a major launch, that we give them this advantage. So this is slowly evolving. I mean, we are learning all these new things, how to get the people online, give them that benefit, give the people who use banking system, give them that benefit. So I think it's coming. As I said, it's all going to evolve very, very quickly now. And in the next 6 months to 1 year, I think we will be, when we discuss this again, we'll be in a much better position. I think where the points which have been made are very good, that we have to take these elasticity of demand, on the tax side. I think that is, and this is what we fought so hard with Razak Saab to bring the sales tax rate down and to bring it to 0 rating or 5% so that we could increase our sales substantially. And the government just didn't understand. And you can see now what is happening to the car industry, to the motorcycle industry. Everything has come to a standstill. Literally, there are no buyers. So if the government have a high tax rates and there are no buyers, what's the point? It's better to have a lower tax rate and get some tax. So I think this is the basic thing which I think the FBR will get a shock in September when they see their collection. And I think that's where the shock treatment might help. Thank you.
Mr. Hamid Zaman, you wanted to comment?
Yeah. Yes, I agree with a lot of things that Mr. Bashir Ali Mohammed Saab is saying. And we are also moving very fast towards building our consumer base and then giving them different incentives to shop online. But this is one area where the government can really come in. Recently, I saw a notification where the Punjab government said if restaurants sell on credit card, they will be charged a GST of 5% instead of the 17 or 16. Now, this is a huge incentive for restaurants to encourage people to buy on credit card. What it does is it also makes every transaction trackable, and so it increases the revenue of the government despite the fact that the GST has gone low. So I think this is something that the government should be able to learn from if it's implemented.
I'll just add one point there. I think people don't really understand why things were cheaper on Amazon in America. They were cheaper because Amazon structurally set it up in a state जहां उनको taxation नहीं charge, VAT या sales tax नहीं charge कर रहे थे वो, So by default, Amazon took structural tax, found loopholes to always be cheaper. So that's one. If you look across the border in India में ये सहूलत नहीं थी. तो India में किसने fund किए? Investors ने. So a lot of private equity, venture capital money went in because they thought they lost the opportunity in China, came and funded all those discounts. We don't have any of these two things in Pakistan. And so, unfortunately, if any of the brands have to offer something cheaper online, it's only because they're trying to gauge in their mind कि maybe rental cost कम है or rental cost, cost of basically holding कम है, इसलिए हम थोड़ा सा discount कर देंगे, लेकिन वो differentials नहीं हो सकते. So I think you can't expect that online will always be cheaper unless there's no GST.
There are two other questions or comments. One is from Shahid Amir. He says, Razak Saab, as mentioned by Munib, can we prevail upon telcos and FPR to allow payment of university or school fees through their balance upload without deduction of tax? Millions of students visit banks to deposit fees of amounts below 15,000. Is that possible? I don't think it is at the moment.
I thought there was a change in this year's finance bill, whereby they have made payments for the school fees in a different format. I can't specifically remember what it was now, but I do remember it coming up in one of the slides presented by the FPR. So I do feel if the gentleman would please check it and then communicate with me whether it has happened or not.
Okay. And then Sohail Qureshi also comments on the same thing. He says, regarding payments through mobile top-up, and when payment through this, government may charge taxes, withholding tax and sales tax only when it is used for a call, whereas when it's used for merchant payment, no tax should be deducted. So
again,
comment on that. Yeah, I think we need to look at this mobile top-up situation much more seriously. Aisha can take the lead.
I have noted it. Yes.
And we need to make a distinction between wallets and mobile top-ups. And everyone says, what's the problem? You have mobile wallets, you can easily top up. But why would I take money and house it in a wallet when I have to house parallel money in my mobile credit? So I think, the wallet game hasn't really worked anywhere except where a lot of private equity or venture capital money has been deployed to burn money.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Okay, there is a question again from an anonymous attendee. I don't know why people are so anonymous. Why can't they tell us who they are? The question is, why is it that only 38 exporters were allowed to register on Amazon? What is the plan for hundreds of small merchants willing to export via Amazon?
What was it? I asked the same question. I think Aisha has left our webinar. I don't see her photo.
No, she's here. She's here.
Aisha, can you answer that question? Why is it only 38?
Yes, sir, the three sectors were identified by Amazon in our first video conference, and those were bed linen, sports, and surgical. And they actually asked just for 30, 10 for each. So we have taken few more just if somebody is doesn't want to do the process, or if there is a problem with the company. So there will be 30, 32 as the first trial period. And from there on, it will hopefully open to all sellers from Pakistan. But let's see that this trial period goes, well. And the process was very, very transparent. We took data from PRAL, the export performance of companies, and then we saw that their experience of exports in North America and Europe, and we got consent letters from them. And initially, it had to be those who are very, very familiar with global markets and all the procedures and standards and everything, because we don't want anything go wrong in the trial period. So these are, surgical is mostly SME. Mostly the companies that we picked up from the surgical sector are not the very, very big giants, and but they have been exporting and they have the capacity to open up stores on Amazon, and hopefully soon this will happen for everyone.
Okay,
the only thing I have to say here is we are a nation that doesn't have the patience. We do nothing for years, and then suddenly we want everything to be done in one go. It can't be done. This is a step. We've now got 30. Inshallah, this time next year, we may have 130, and we will have 1,030. So it'll just develop in due process. The fact of the matter is that we have moved. And inshallah, if the results show good, more and more people will jump in. Amazon will have more confidence on Pakistan, and we will start progressing. But the fact that we've made the first move, I think is a very exciting thing.
We only have a minute left, so if anyone has any final urgent comment to make.
I just, Jahanara, if I may,
yes, Doctor.
I just wanted to make the panel aware of the fact that between Facebook and Zoom, we had about 80 participants. Now, these are well-informed people. I mean, I think this panel probably meets Mr. Razak Dawood frequently enough, as does Jahanara, and but the objective here is to open up this discussion to a larger group of people. And I think that we've achieved. And the group of people that we've tried to reach are both serious researchers in the academia, the young professors who are doing top of the quality research at LAMS, at Lahore School, and indeed universities abroad by a connection through the IGC. So the participants that you have here are really both informed and concerned researchers on Pakistan, and of course practitioners. You've had people from industry participate as well. So in a sense, this is a town hall where the kinds of conversations that take place between the panel and the Minister for Commerce are actually taking place in a much more open and public fora. And I think that contributes to the quality of discussion on these key policy issues, which will matter enormously for Pakistan going forward. What kind of share we have in the world markets, what kind of modernization takes place domestically. So to that extent, I just wanted to thank everybody to be a part of this larger discussion.
Okay.
I'd like to thank everybody, and I really want to thank everybody for what they have said. For me, it's I know it's the responsibility of the Ministry of Commerce, but to hear your comments and for us to learn from you, it's fabulous. Thank you very, very much.
And we will prepare a summary of the main points that came out, and we will convey those to the ministry for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, CDPR, and thank you, Dr. Razak Dawood, and all the panelists.
Thank you, Ms. Jahana. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz. Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you.
Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you.
Thank you.